Go. Okay, so we've been talking about functions. There's f of x equals x squared plus 7 over 14. I would like you just to start off with an easy one. Figure out f of 2. You can use it, do it in your head if you want to. Just write down the answer. And then you're going to billboard, hold it up over your head, zoom in on it big so I can see it easily. If you want to use thick type, that'd be fine. If yours is written on a piece of paper, that's no problem. Just have to write big enough so I can see it. Thankfully, you're in the front row, so it'll be easy. All right. F of 2. I'm gonna say show me in just a second. Okay, show me. What do you think it is? Yup, 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 yup. Yup, yup. Can't read yours. Yup, yup, yup. Yup, yup. Yup, 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 yup. Yours is really dim, but I'll take it. Yup. Yup. Hurting my eyes. Yup. Okay. All right. So then that's the easy part. You stick a 2 in here. Think of it as an empty spot, and you drop into 2. 2 squared makes 4. 4 and 7 is 11. 11 14s. Easy peasy. But what happens when I say f of... Wait, I got to clean this up so it's readable. Okay, there we go. F of x plus 3. And yes, if you aren't using the word FOIL in what you're doing, you're probably doing it wrong. So basically, whatever I put in that parentheses right here is what I'm telling you to put into the empty spot right there. So you make yourself an empty spot, squared plus 7 over 14. You could do that before I even told you what the problem was. And then you just drop in whatever I tell you into the empty spot. Well, I told you x plus 3, so you put it there. Now, why did I say FOIL was important? Because so many kids think, oh, I'll just take x squared and 3 squared, and it's x squared plus 9. And that's wrong. Because when you square something, it means times itself. So I'm going to move this plus 7 over, and I'm going to say instead of squared, I'm going to say times x plus 3, and now you may see where the FOIL comes in. See if you can finish the deal and get the right answer for this one. It doesn't like all cancel down to be something really simple. It's a big fraction when you're done. X squared, or x, instead of rewriting the whole thing, I'm just going to go up here. X squared, outside and inside makes what? 6x. And then the 3 and 3 makes 9, and the 7 together make 16, all over 14. Now, what if, how many of you had that right? Raise your hand if you did. Good. How about if I just put a plus 5 right here, like 5 plus all of that? Then I'd add 5. But be careful. A lot of kids would have just gone, oh, so I add 5 up here. You're right. If I'm adding 5, I'm really adding 5 to this whole thing like this. Plus 5. So can it just jump on the top and join in? No, because that would imply it has a denominator of 14. This has a denominator of 1. And now I could add them together only if I get a common denominator. What's a good common denominator? 14. So I go, how do I get this to be a 14? I times by 14. I times that by 14. And that would become 50, and 5 times the 10 is a 50, and 5 times the 4 is a 20, and that makes 70 on top. You're right, 70 14ths. All right, so that all of a sudden got really complicated. But the main point here is this 5 right here isn't in here. It's not going to jump inside the parentheses with the other stuff. It's out here. It's on the outside. So you just put 5 on the outside and you'll be done. All right, I'm going to give you another one that's a little simpler, but I want you to do it from the beginning. Let's say it was f of x equals 3x minus 5, and I just want to know what's 5 plus 3 f of x minus 4. A week ago, this would have blown your mind. But I think you've learned how to do it. This is a tough one. Mostly in the little details. Most of you guys get the big picture, which you're supposed to do. You on this? You on this? Get on this immediately. Okay, you are done with it? Okay. I just couldn't tell if from your reaction if you were working on this one or the one before it, or if you were watching ESPN. All right. We're taking a nap. Okay, so this is how you start. First, you got to figure out that before you do anything else. So that tells me drop this into my empty spot right there. So I'm going to start by saying 3 empty spot minus 5. And then what do I drop in? X minus 4. Then, whatever that comes out to be, I'm going to times all of it by 3. And then I'm going to add 5 at the very end. Okay, so first I'm going to find this. So that's going to be 3x minus 12 minus 5, which makes 3x minus 12 and 5 makes 17, I think. Right? I'm doing 3 times the x and 3 times the negative. If you want me to write it out, I can. It would be 3x minus 12 minus 5. And then those can go together, and it's 3x minus 17. So that's what this is. That is 3x minus 17. So now I'm going to do 5 plus 3 times all of that, 3x minus 17. And then I'll do the 3 times the 3x is 5 plus 9x, and 3 times the negative 17. That kind of got ugly there. Let me see. 3 times 10 is 30. Is it 51? Okay, thank you. And then I put it all together, and I say 9x. And it'll be definitely negative, but this 5 takes off some of it. So it brings it down to 46. Raise your hand if you had 9x minus 46. That's impressive. Okay, good job. So this is a tough one. This would be like one of the toughest ones on the quiz Friday. Yes, you have a quiz Friday. Okay. Yes, you have quiz Friday. So, how about this? I'm just going to ask you this from a different angle. That's a function that has been moved. Where? Yes. Right 4 and up 7. Very good. Okay. And then one more thing we learned is if we throw in a negative on the outside, it does one thing, and if you throw the negative on the inside, it does something else. How about on the outside? Yes, swimmer in the back. I don't like the word rotate. Try a different word. Flip. There you go. It's a flip up, down. So if my function had looked like that, it would flip it up, down. So I would have to take this and I'll try to do this in blue, make it flip upside down, and it would go kind of like that. Up, down, flip. Good point. So now it's been flipped, and I can also move it which ways? Right 4 and up 7. Right 4, up 7. Okay. Now, here's the tough part. What order are you supposed to do this stuff in? Opposite on the inside, yes, that's true. You don't know how to multiply things yet, so I'll skip that. Let's just make it a negative here. Let's make it a negative here. And then let's say this. Do you get that there are 4 things happening here? 2 different flips, and then a move to the right, and then a move up. You get that? Okay, then. Can you just do them in any order you want? No. Sometimes you'll get a completely different shape. All right, so we got to know what order to do it in. Now, my advice to you has been start on the inside. That's where you start all difficult math problems, on the inside. So like in the old days when you had problems like this, you'd start on the inside, and if they told you like x was 5, you'd go, okay, start in here. Know what I'm talking about? If you didn't know that before, it's true. You want to start on the very inside you know, and inside the parentheses that are inside of other parentheses. So generally starting on the inside and working your way out, kind of like the alien does when they take over the human. You know, they get inside shit. Well, anyway, that's a whole different movie. Okay, so back to, if I'm going to start on the inside, I have thing A, B, C, and D. Do you think it should be B or C? Well, you got a 50-50 chance. Should we just go guess one? No, we really shouldn't. All right, I want to hear arguments for B versus C. Use things I've told you about these functions and don't just say B. It makes you sound like a bunch of strange cows. B, B, B. Yes? Okay, so let me translate for the people at home. He said, you said you always start on the inside. True. But the inside's always opposite of what you think. Very good point. So, why would you start with B if it's opposite of what you think? What? Good point. That's the furthest on the inside, and it's also a parentheses. Aren't parentheses supposed to have priority? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So there's P. P is parentheses. Parentheses are supposed to be first, and therefore they're not first. Do you get what I'm saying? If we're going to do the opposite of the normal order, if parentheses are supposed to be first, then don't make it first. Make that first. You're right. B should be first. And if we're supposed to do the stuff on the inside and we're already done with B, well, then we got to go to C next. How about the third and fourth thing? That's A and D. Now the question is, do we do A or D? A. Nah, you sound like sheep. Why A? Well, think order of operations. Can you trust the stuff on the outside to be normal? Yes. And what's the normal order of operations? This, by the way, is a multiply by -1. In case you didn't know that. And this is an add 7. So now that I say that's a multiply here, multiply comes first, therefore add, right? That's why A does come next. And number 4 is D. Questions about that? Like why this or whatever? Yes. Why does B come first? Of these two, what would normally be first is the parentheses. But since we're on the inside, we do the opposite of that. That's still do the parentheses, yes. Well, but we're inside of the whole thing is we're inside. So yeah, from that perspective, we do that first. But once we get in those parentheses, we start thinking, okay, opposite of normal in there. Okay, do one more like that. These are tough, but you can do it. Just stay with me. This one's a little different, so beware. I'm going to call, instead of A, B, C, and D, I'm going to call them Q, R, they have to be letters, and J. Kurumja. So see what order you should do them in. Be careful. Give me a list. MRQJ, whatever. Do you know radio stations are always 4 letters? Have you ever noticed that? KMOJ, KQRS, KS95. You ever noticing any of that pattern? They always have 4. KDWB. B96 is not their official call station. They have to have 4. KTIS. You notice something here? KTIS, KS95. KDWB. They all start with a K because that's the way they're supposed to do. They're supposed to do it for a radio station. It's supposed to start with a K, and it's supposed to be 4 letters. Cool. KOOL. Very good. Cool 108. All right. So anyway, in case you didn't notice that, we'll talk about that later in permutations and combinations. But back to this. Here's our 4 letters, and I start on the inside. So if you didn't start with M or R, I am very disappointed. Of the M and the R, which one would normally be first? Of the R and the M, which one would normally be first? R would normally be first, but since we're on the inside, M is first. MR, and then I guess I should do it down like I did last time. M's first, R second, and then of the outside ones, it's just like last time, so which one's first? Q is next. You do it in the normal order, and multiply comes before subtract. MRQJ, Mr. QJ. Mr. QJ is the answer. Any questions? Okay, so the order on these is the toughest part. And I'd say that's what the kids are going to have most trouble with on Friday when you take the quiz. Quiz on Friday. 85% category. Big time. Yeah, the real thing. It's the same size as your other one. Okay, so now let's look at your worksheet together and see what you are expected to know. So everybody find your worksheet. That's not it. The same one as yesterday, yep. So you can just pull up the same one you already started. You're up through problem 6 so far already. I'm finding it on Schoology here. There it is. Open. All right. So you've already done 1 through 6. So let me just kind of, I got to move over so I can get the scroll bar over there. There we go. I'll get up through, like, here's number 7. It's the first one that you haven't done. I gave you one of these yesterday, but I'll help you with this one today. So if I was going to give you an equation for that, first thing I got to know, what is it? Is it a squared? Is it a square root? Is it an absolute value? Is it a line? Which one is it? Square root. In case you don't remember, the parent for this one looks kind of like this. Goes through this, and this, and this, and it's a curve like that. Okay? All right, so then, do you see that it got flipped left, right? Got flipped like this way. Flipped over. So if I start with a square root, here's how I would always do these. Say, okay, I know it's a square root. Leave yourself some space to put in numbers and negatives and that kind of stuff. Which way did it get flipped? Left, right, or up, down? Left, right, and therefore it's on the inside. So I put a negative in there. Okay. Next thing, did it get moved up or down? Up, how far? So then that's a +2 out there. And the last thing is it moved 1 to the right. So how do I do that? -1. Now I know kids right now, they usually like to be like, hey, I'm done, I'm moving on. But if you want to make sure you get a good grade, if you want to get a good grade on your tests, you got to get used to going back and taking 1 more second. Make sure you did it right. So if I took this red thing right here, not that thing, I'm going to get rid of that thing, this thing right here, and I did this to it, would it work? Well, let me find out. I'm going to, oh, it just disappeared. That's weird. Ah, all the red stuff disappeared. Y equals square root of, and then there was an X in there. Is that right now? Okay, good. If I took that square root and I actually did all of this, oh, then this shouldn't be over the whole thing. It should be like that. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, and I actually make it, what would be first? That would be first, because it's on the inside, it's the opposite of normal. So I go, move it over 1 to the right. So here's what my square root thing looks like now. And now I have to flip it left, right. Do you get how it would kind of look like this then? See how it's starting to look a lot like this? And all I have to do is move it up 2, and then I got it. So yeah, I checked it and I made sure I was right. Okay, so yes, it was right. Okay, the next set of them are just all, hold on a second. I'm going to clear the ink on this. The next set of them are all the same kind of functions. All of those are square root functions. So every single one of these is y equals square root of x somehow. And it's just a matter of being flipped different ways, or moved up or down or left or right. So I'll just pick one. I'm going to pick this one right here. Compared to the parent one, which would be right here, can you see it's gotten flipped up, down? That's an up, down flip, so that's on the outside. It's also been moved to the left 6 spots. Left 6. And the last thing is, it's been moved up. How far up did it go? Looks like it went up 5 spots. There we go. There's the answer for this one. C, I think. Is that? All right. Okay. Now, one thing I want to remind you about is with the iPads, the graphing is one of the toughest units for an iPad because it's hard to give you enough space to write, and again, it's tough to graph on them because you got to use the zoom feature. But this will get easier to work with iPads as you move to other units that don't have so much graphing. This graphing is tough. It's better than last year because we got this new Remarks app. It's much better. Okay, and then let's scroll down and see if there's other kind of problems that you don't know how to do yet. You have a question first. Your homework is to finish this worksheet. Yes, all of it. So I go to clear ink there. And now I'm going to scroll to some other kinds of problems you have to do. These, just write a little equation. No, I'm on the wrong thing now. Write a little equation for this. Like, this is reflected over x. That means up, down. Let me think. This one's the x-axis. So if it's reflected over that, yeah, that's up, down. So that's an up, down flip. And then it moved down 5. There's the up, down flip. There's the down 5. Okay. If you wanted to put parentheses, you'd only put them here. Okay, if you put them around that negative, then you just put the flip on the inside, and we don't want that. The flip was an up-down flip, so. All right, I think that's enough help for you for today.